I don't think you got the millage or the assessed value to be able to do it. I would like to say, to go back and start over a little bit from the fact that what services are you going to provide these citizens that are so many in number, 10% of the population, 10% of the area, however you want to say, what are you going to provide that's not already there? Do understand?
Yes.
Okay. Do they understand that you're going to have to come up with a form of government?
Yes.
Do you understand how that?
I understand. We've explained it.
Okay. You understand it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you understand what the millage rate's going to have to be to cover all these necessities that you're wanting?
It's in our budget. It's in our budget.
Well,
I know you don't think that it covers it, but
no, I honestly don't. I mean, I'm looking at a letter here on March the 7th of this year, and your total assessed value is $182 million. $182 million. That's all. Do you realize how much that is to be able to do it? I would suggest that a form of government, I have no idea what you're going to come up with or whatever you've talked about. But I will assure you without a shadow of a doubt, I'm sitting here, that your millage rate that you propose in your budget is so undervalued. I don't think the citizens understand that you're going to have to shoot those mills up at least 80 mills on top of what you got right now at a bare minimum. At a bare minimum. And I'm looking at more like 110 is what you're going to have to pick those mills up to. And I'm just looking at your budget and what a mill generates and what your total assessed value is. Your market value. Look at that. Of course, I'll admit that you're growing, and then you want to kind of slow it down and materialize that. But those are the things that extremely, extremely stress me out when you got a population that you want, the area that you want in acreage and density, and these basic questions of a new government that you want to start up there that the people may or may not know what they're voting for, may or may not understand what the millage rate's going to be to cover all this, and may or may not understand what additional services you're going to be able to get.
Sir, can you?
Now we'll call on Senator Nicholson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you all for coming down today and sharing with us and everything. First question has to do with law enforcement. I know you mentioned about, contacting Highway Patrol, but, they just do traffic. We're talking about safety, safety in the community. So if you're not going to set up a police force right away, I guess you're going to have to contract with the county.
That's correct.
For service. Have you already discussed that issue with them?
Yeah, it's part of, we've got a commitment from Sheriff Fail to continue the service he currently does for the county.
Okay. So what level is that now? How do they do it?
Same level that they got. And I can't tell you the number of officers and everything they got, but actually Sheriff Fail had proposed to the town of Indian, or the area of Indian Land, to increase that, and he put a budget together in order to do that and wanted to assess on a local assessment, and the folks basically didn't want to accept the extra money. It's like the extra $60, they want another $75 per household. But we've got in our budget the money to do that for them. So we think we're not only going to be able to continue the police, we know we're going to be able to continue at the current level of enforcement. Well, we believe we're going to be able to increase that and give Sheriff Fell what he needs.
Okay. Thing is, we ask these questions because we don't want it to be a failure. Yeah. We don't want to set up and come back in a year to, we cannot do it, we're bankrupt, and we got to go under. That's the whole thing. We're looking at the total picture of what's best, for Lancaster County. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, call on Ms. Price at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank all of you all for taking the time to come out and exercise your right of making a request, and your request is to be incorporated. I've served on Aiken City Council for 30 years and currently still serving. And the biggest concern that I have from voters in our town deals with taxes and fees. Who's paying for it? Who's paying for the services? I respect your wish and your right to want to be incorporated. what I really want to be a bit more convinced about is the taxes and fees that you can expect to come. Aiken has a population of about a little over 30,000 folks. We have a budget of a little over 50 million. We have the local option sales tax. That sales tax has raised, with the county involved as well, about $50 million. So we have managed to provide a lot of our services through the local option sales tax added to our budget. We've had a millage rate of over 100 mills. That millage rate now is 62 mills. So as services began to improve, as we levied more fees, and you can expect that, stormwater fees, water fees, garbage fees, those increases will come if you want the infrastructure intact for your community. So all I want to be convinced of as citizens is that you know what is to come. I get a lot of complaints about fees and taxes being levied on them. Naturally, we have a low millage rate, but frankly, what you hear from citizens is when you place a fee on me, it is tax. It is a tax, but that is a targeted fee for the services that you're being provided. It's stormwater fees, it's water and sewer, you name it. So I just want to make you aware of what is coming. We have county roads in our jurisdiction, state roads, and city roads. We have found that we have, even though based on the population of our folks and how our town is laid out, you can have a person living in the city right across from a county person, but that road is still there. So they're expecting those potholes to be corrected. So frankly, we just implemented a roads program this year for our city after more than 150 plus years of being in existence. So it is the fees that you can expect that I want you, if the population is 4,000 that has signed this petition, they need to know that more fees, more taxes is coming, and they're going to be a large bearer of those fees and taxes. Not trying to scare you, but that's fact. That's life.
And some of these budget concerns that others have, I tend to start to have as well, because if that's coming down the road, then there's going to be a substantial increase in your budget coming down the road, which is fine. I mean, that's anticipated. But when you say the budget's what, 7 million? Is it about
7.7 million?
7.7 million starting out. You know, I worry a little bit that you might be selling it. You know, you're selling it at 7, but you know it's going to 21 in 5 years. And
well, let me ask you, because our understanding is by state law we can't increase it that much. I mean, it's basically based on inflation and population growth. So I don't see how we'd be able to do that.
Well, I think I agree with you. I think you're going to have you're going to have a hard time doing it, and that's one of the things I think we're concerned about. What you're hearing from us is not because we don't want you to be a town. That's not our job. That's the voters' job to decide whether you become a town. Correct. But it's our job to be a gatekeeper to make sure that your plan is sound, so you don't go down this path and then 6 years from now you're back looking at state government saying, help us, you got to fix this mess we made because we didn't do our jobs. You know, because I didn't do my job up in, we didn't do our job. But that's, you know, understanding I understand, so I've learned, I didn't know it before, but I've learned a lot about how costly it is, how far behind we are, and the fact that if you incorporate, and you're a pretty big area, you know, unlike Van Wyck and some other things, we've looked at some other towns over the years that were smaller geographically, so it's just a different issue, but you're pretty big, and a lot of county roads in there. The county is not going to, once you become a city, I can tell you, the county, they don't want to go in there anyway. Now they're really not going to go in there. So you're going to be faced with, I'm just saying this because it's the truth, you're going to be faced with maintaining those roads. And when you say, well, we can spend $300,000 and maintain the roads, based on that formula, that's going to be enough.
Yeah.
There's no way on God's green earth that's going to happen. Because number one, your folks are mad. The reason you're here in the first place is because you can't get decent roads. You're mad about the roads, among other things. So, which is fair. You want to get control of your road system. I'm really concerned that you've not budgeted, have given this some thought, because that sort of data is not that difficult to obtain from the DOT. And the good thing about roads that makes it easy is it's just engineering and money. I mean really.
So, I asked a question last month about the business fees, and I looked in the budget. The business and franchise fees for businesses, year one was $500,000.
Yeah, based on 3%. Based on 3%.
And then it goes up, based on 3%, and then it goes up roughly $15,000 per year. In year 5, it should be about $562,000.
It's based on projected growth.
Yeah. So to get back to it, when I asked a question, I was told that we're going to follow the Fort Mill plan. So that the businesses understand, the businesses that you have, do they understand this increase?
My communication with most of the businesses in the area, the smaller ones are generally in favor of this incorporation effort. Some of the larger ones that we've had communications with tend to be ambivalent towards it. They just see it as a cost of doing business where they are. But the smaller local businessmen, they're generally in favor of it because they live there also, and they'd like to have things more along their lines of thought process where they can have a local representation where they can go and speak with somebody. So, that's where we are on that.
My mind, and I got reminded about it. This involves a legal issue with the Attorney General's opinion and the change in the boundaries, and the Cabinet's decision. And I'm not an expert in this field. I don't propose to be. So I'm not going to try to, slug it out with another lawyer on this, at least not today. But it certainly gives me some concern that because your map includes Van Wyck, that's not really a minor change. That's a pretty significant change. It does contemplate, if there's the case, as I understand, contemplates if there's sort of a minor change and the public knows about it, then that will be okay. But I guess I'm concerned that by changing it, it seems like you're looking for a lawsuit where it would be fairly simple. Like you're just sort of inviting a lawsuit, and that's going to get expensive, and that's going to take your train off the tracks. And I don't want that, and you don't want that. And as a lawyer, I don't think you should spend money on lawyers unless you really, really have to. So, is it not more prudent to amend or submit a new application with the new boundaries? Well, we've looked at it. We've looked at everything you got, but for that, it seems like it would be a very simple step to take to amend your boundaries, submit it, resubmit it, and, I guess we might have a few more questions, but
Van Wyck. Like we took Van Wyck's out of that, out of all of our numbers.
That's not really what the statute doesn't really allow that, does it? It doesn't allow an addendum. It requires you to submit doesn't it require you to submit a new application? Is that? You're changing the boundaries?
I don't know that the statute really speaks to that in terms of resubmission. It doesn't. We had extensive conversations with both the Secretary of State's office and with the Judicial Committee of what the ways to move forward were, and what we kind of came to is the notion of saying, well, here you go. So the committee's informed on how this potential removal of Van Wyck changes things.
Right.
We put together a new map. Here's what the map looks like. We put together, here's the new budget with adjusted, which was very negligible. It's like 0.02% or something along those lines. We went through and we hunted down every signature that could have been in a disputed area. We went through all these different things and sort of said, here's what it looks like if Van Wyck's not, and then submitted that in, so that you were fully informed on what the issue is, or like, you know, how much it impacts.
Right. I mean, I get that I'm understanding. Of course, I was here for the last one. I guess I offer this just, you know, free advice. It feels like that this whole process has not been hand in hand. We're all singing Kumbaya down to the committee. It's been somewhat contentious between, you know, the competing towns and the county, is my sense. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. There's some dissension out there that, at least at this stage, doesn't appear to be on the road to getting resolved anytime soon. And when there's dissension like that, people are eager to go get lawyers and go rush to a courtroom. And I just fear that your first big contingency fund expenditure is going to be for lawyers like me to go down to the Supreme Court and be hacking this thing out. And I just wonder, and that's why I asked the question. I'm not, you know, if you want to go ahead like this, fair enough, have at it, you know. But if it goes that way, I want you to remember me, because I could have saved you $1.2 million. And so I just wonder if you might want to.
Here.
Chair recognizes Ms. Price.
Let me just be up front. I support what you're trying to do, straight up. But this legal glitch, small, that you can offset right now, it concerns me a bit that we don't get that cleared away, that the citizens are not faced with, the potential citizens are not faced with someone creating a lawsuit. Pardon me? Okay. And maybe that's not in all the things that we should be looking at, but that just concerns me. That